Hello and welcome. It's the completion of the 29th day of April, 2020. My name is Derek. This is the Money Charts channel. All bets, trades of the like. Well, that's within each his own risk and their own reward. All right, let's start off with some numbers. We're going to take a look at gold, Bitcoin, the Dow Jones, silver, and oil. What I have here is what the yearly high is. I mean, everything has pretty much the same story to a degree. Base story. And then we got the what I call the Rudy Gobert lows. Rudy Gobert testing positive for COVID. The end of for 2 months now, plus 3 months it's going to be more, of sports, which was, of course, that's the day after, or hours and hours rather after the next morning after this happened. Well, every market crashed. Everything did. That was the only time I've seen everything, which include Bitcoin, the precious metals, gold and silver, the stocks, the oil, everything just go down. And of course, it's not like there was that many days. Back in like 2008 and 1921, there's no such thing as Bitcoin. So of course, that was only been a few sample size events to happen. But I've always been curious, what's going to happen when stock markets go through this volatility, how Bitcoin's going to react? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But the current prices and the retracement. Now, how do you mathematically calculate this? Well, I'm going to show you. I'll just show you the formula right in here. Log current price divided by lowest, divided by log highest price divided by lowest price. That tells you what the retracement has been within that range. Oil's in negative territory. Bitcoin's over 100, and gold's over 100, and Bitcoin, the Dow, and silver are betweening the lows and the highs. So gold has surpassed the highs of 1703 by going to 1713. Oil has went below the lows of $20.43, and I'm going to talk a little bit now about the categories for why this is important. And gold, we'll get to that in a little bit. First, I'm going to go to these ones in here. The Dow Jones and silver. Especially the Dow being as big as it is one of the major components of the bunch. But they're around that 61.8% retracement level. Are we going to be getting another capitulation wave lower like we've seen in here? We've seen multiple times before, 2008 having ended 2009 having many of those. Another deflationary capitulation style event. Because oftentimes if you're going to do it, having a market that, and let me just bring up my drawing tool in here. I mean they all did the same thing. And that is, we started the year off going up, and then boom, everything falls on that point. And then we've been just rallying up, and then it looks like we're at the spot of either these are the lows, and we just had a scare move that happened in March, or we're having this volatile higher low move over the last several weeks, and markets in time are going to be making lows, of course. Well, probably lower than where they came from before. And that's why I say probably, especially with things like gold. For and such, maybe gold, especially if the whole capitulation thing starts when gold's like over 1800 maybe. It could start going down and fall to like 1625 and still remain above these lows. And then you might be able to see where the Dow Jones, which goes below the 18.2 and maybe does hit 14,000 or something of that nature. And then be curious, where will silver be at? Maybe it'll go up to 17 before it falls. And then maybe it too might make a higher low or matching low. I'll be very curious to see. I've always been curious, how will Bitcoin's movements in these major situations? It's not like there's really ever been any of these type of capitulation style events to these degrees since Bitcoin's been on the market. 2008, 2009 was really the last big movements of such. And so far, at least on that one day, you could say maybe Bitcoin traded amongst with the Dow and everything else, or maybe Bitcoin within the exact same news. And if that's the case, will there be future news again that Bitcoin is going to follow? Anyway, off to the charts. And I'm going to talk about the retracements within all of them as the main focus. And gold over 100% retracement. Well, there's its high, March the 9th. And we can see that it's just microscopically above it, which is why it's microscopically retraced over 100%. And right around here was in this Fibonacci. I mean, what a big move it had. Just showing how like gold really is something I think is very smart to be holding. Of course, in the physical bullion thing measure. Of course, that's what I think. What you care to do or think yourself, that's up to you. And because I think that I own a little bit of gold, and thus, after making this breakout in here, these were the tells. Okay, yeah, it looks like this is a failed sell-off move. And just a very good chance, of course, I think, that we will have continuation moves towards the upside and then reach the highs that it's seen here next, 1900. Anyway, on to the next one, which is Bitcoin. And the levels in which I go by, these are ones that I've got from a long time ago, these Fibonacci marks. And more larger levels than the ones that, of course, I presented in here. But within the market on Bitcoin, another way that I got to draw, I'm not going to show it here, you can just show that there's always these higher lows in here. There's an obvious uptrend from this low and an obvious downtrend. So we're still waiting to get out of that symmetricalness. And I actually will bring that chart up, but I'm just curious to see how close to that line it is. But really, it doesn't matter because we can see if you want to draw a trend line from this high to this high to this high to where we're at now, that it's probably getting near that trend line. We're just maybe a small percentage move away. And as far as the move that we have seen on today's session, just a fantastic one, as it has managed to break out above that level of resistance. And thus, we can see here how we established it in here, supported this little mark in here for several days, and then 2 days breaking higher on April 22nd and 23rd. I've been talking about this, well, I'm going to say not really for the last few days because I'm not making many videos, but I did say yesterday about, and even in here, that this setup in here is looking like ASAP or really soon. Today was that soon period where we're going to probably have a decent break higher, and that's exactly what happened well into the 8,000s. I figured on 84, 85, and well, it obviously surpassed that level, but generally in that same mark. So I'm seeing it break on that Fibonacci level. This is really telling me that it's a failed breakdown. Now, where we go short term and its moves in here, well, that's just going to be where we are at. Like this is well overextended on the single hour term time frame with a little bit of correctionary move because we had this high in here at the 13 hour or 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then again, we've had just three hours down in a row or 3 periods down. Still not much for side or time or price correction with a nice move higher. But with a bull market, these things can in this time frame, if it could, but if it does, there could be significant gains at any given time. And then when I see stuff like this, a big extended 18 average, I'm like, ooh, maybe a different time frame that's a little longer. How does the 3 hour work? And I don't think it would work too well because it's still well overextended. So I probably think that an 8 hour to the daily would serve the most justice. I even think the daily, the one I showed at first. Yeah, because I look at this, I see a big move. I want to hold this general area of previous resistance now between 7460 and we'll say 7800, which would coincide with where the 18 average would be rising. But again, because of the Fibonacci retracement from here, I like how it's been performing. It tells me it probably should be making a move to this 98.14 Fibonacci level on this point, probably piercing above, thus probably getting to about 10,150. Whether it does it immediately, and when I say immediately, that means that like really any corrections on the daily chart, or whether we correct further, because I just talked about that at the first part, the hold area, the rising 18, maybe goes sideways at this level, I don't know, but the statement that it's telling me of what it's done in today's session is a continuation, whenever it's ready to do so, to a move to 10,035, thus if it fails to hold the around the 7/3 area, 7/3 meaning 7,300, I don't want to say low 7,000s because that's like around 7,050, 71, 70, 7,200. But yeah, the 7/3, that just sounds bad. But 7,300, 74, that ballpark area. If it doesn't hold, this would be a failed break and we've been for a nasty move lower. And let's move on next to the Dow Industrials. And there's its high in here in February. There's its low. And it's a 61.8% retracement pretty much. What it has done for very short-term analysis is the following. This should go higher. This should be another update tomorrow. Yeah, it really should be. If it isn't, I mean, that doesn't mean, oh my goodness, that what happened. It's not. Is it a big reversal coming? Maybe, but I don't know. I don't think so. But it does seem to me as if we're going to break the level of resistance here around 23.9 to 24.282, which it clearly has done, but barely has done, then I think we're going to have a decent break above, which is where we're not at now. So a decent break would be like 25.3, 25.4. I would expect a move towards that nature. But we are getting to that 61.8 Fibonacci level, and are we making a lower high to this one, followed by a lower low in here? Because we could easily top on whatever intermediate term, maybe just go like this if it can make a higher low because it's had a good rally. And then, okay, now we can start talking about what would be an easier, higher high to break, and thus a challenge, but a better probability of going here. But even making a higher high and a lower high at the same time could be possibilities. And then even you could say, well, you know what, everyone's going to be selling these stocks because of the conditions and everything going on. And, well, I would agree if those people who need currency and have stocks and have no choice but to sell will. But as if those people are going to make anything near a volatile amount that's going to mean anything. Because as I look at it, the big owners of stocks, and there's a bunch of other ones, but the Federal Reserve and the actual corporations itself and your Warren Buffetts and all the day traders and different things like that, they make a good amount of... and day traders, depending how they trade, they'll just follow what the market is. But yeah, yada yada. Let's move on to silver. And these Fibonacci lines I have had for the same reasons, which is, and these were in from a long time ago. So it came up right up to the 61.8%. It's just been correcting for quite some time. That's still what it's doing. Period, number 6 or 7 in here, so a week and a half, yada yada, just hanging in there. Okay, it's in the rising point. Does that give you probability to go higher? We did have the sudden downtrend. I mean, yeah, if you see a weakness around this low area, 14 high change, then we could be looking towards that move. But we haven't had any break higher, haven't any break lower. It's just a continuation until there's any need for anything different. If it doesn't do anything, and we're starting to see it now, what's going to happen is this will get neutral, 18 average going sideways. Of course, the volatility of this band is pretty tight, it's pretty small rather. So we have any type of small pierces above or below it, to me, is like yada yada, pretty much in the same areas as the support I'd be talking about. I need to see a clear break below 1456 and a clear break above this 1570 mark to say that this thing is ready to go either to a decent leg down or higher. And finally, crude oil, which had its highs like at the start of the year. It was just in a decline before all of this was even about to go on. As we can see here, the high was in January the 8th. Decline, failed breakout higher, and then just well. So there's the Rudy Gobert lows here. There's the resistance of the 18th. It was by far the weakest of the allotment that I showed. I was trying to think of what else do I show, and I was going to put up the NASDAQ, but I tried to bring it up. It was just, I couldn't figure out how to do it, and I was like, whatever, I got the stock market. It's still about the same. But there really isn't too many more that I can think of, at least for decent-sized base markets. And I got the one that doesn't have the negative prices. It's a crazy world, crazy situation that we're in. I think the best thing to state is that for me, my news has mainly been sources like Mike Maloney on all these are YouTube people. Then we've also got James Corbett, a Canadian-Japanese person, I guess, because he's born in Canada and now he lives in Japan. He's got a lot of good stuff on his channel. So a lot of what's been on just that, to me, has been what I've seen. I watched a video today from Zach Hampel, who is who's probably caught more baseballs than anyone in this world at baseball games. At least in the stadium, he's caught 5 figures. He goes to baseball games all the time, catches 5, 6, 7, 10 balls, just running around the stadium. Pretty cool content that he has. But he showed a video of what's going on in New York, and things, to me, my opinion overall, are things have been overstretched way too much. It is painfully noticeable to me that there is more to the current situation story than exists. And there's a lot of motives and different, I don't know what situations I can follow through within this, other than what seems to be the obvious, sort of like they're talking about, oh, we're just going to do everything we can to just trace your movements at all time and things like that. And well, a lot of what I see, again, is just looking like, at least right now, and probably even moving forward, has been what I feel a loss of a lot of people's liberties. And one of the recent events was a doctor that recently had a video, 5 million views. Which one was it? I can't even find it. Doctor starts with what was the doctor's name again? This is the one right here. YouTube issues statement on removal of controversial video. See, my memory is getting bad. I'm to the point. One person mentioned to me, yeah, who was this one guy that your roommate back like 25 years ago? And I'm trying to get the name. I'm thinking, I mean, you would have asked me like any time before. I would give you two in an instant. Then I figured out this morning. It's not Anderson, but I just watched this today. And then Erickson, yeah. And I there's a Detroit Red Wing hockey player. That's the picture that I had in my head. But you know what? For me, it's always been that way. For remembering names, it has been one of my worst things that I've always hated. That I cannot store and remember things in my brain. It's bad. Even when I'm trying to put numbers together. I mean, one thing I've been trying to think about doing is playing cards on here. And for me, I can only count a little bit and keep so much in my brain. But like games like Gin Rummy, I'm like so amazing at that game. I know a lot, and I get my ass kicked against the late Stu Unger if I played my prime versus his prime because he had a better brain for stuff like that than me. But I can beat most people at that game, and I know a lot. But one thing you have to do is pretty much know all the cards that have been played, cards, of course, your opponent's played, sequences towards it. And a lot of times when I'm playing, I'll just forget stuff, and it was so bad. When I first started trying to count cards in the casino, my big problem was, what was my count? Say it was a -7 or +3 or whatever. And I'm trying to think of what I said in my head like 4 seconds ago or 8 seconds ago, and then I'll just forget. Then cards are being placed, and I lose the count. It's like, damn it. Of course, nowadays, I figured out a way where I can do it perfect nowadays. But still, back then when I did it before, it was pretty hard. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. There'll be another video for tonight's section at some point, which will deal more towards altcoins and cryptocurrencies. I know I talked about Bitcoin in here, so I'll give it another quick update again. Maybe new stuff will come out, but I'll probably wait a couple plus hours before that one. And have yourself a great, if you're watching this live, depending on what time you're at, evening, if you're, or night, if you're in the Americas. And I guess I'm doing videos at this time and you're in Europe. I guess you see it in the morning, or if you're up late, because it would be about 1 o'clock in the morning in Europe on the upload, and a little after 8 o'clock p.m. New York time, 5 p.m. California. Take care. Bye-bye.